Is that the light I want, or do I want a different light? Oh no, that's too red. Oh no, that's too bright. Oh, that's just playing about with the light now.
Come on, baby, light my ring lights. Come on, baby, light my ring lights.
Yeah. Shall we do an intro?
Sure. It's interesting. It's not the question I thought was going to come out there.
Oh, what did you think the question was going to be?
I thought you were going to ask if we could make bobbleheads.
Is that the next step in the merch plan?
I want a bobble babushka.
Oh, we could pick like several good looks we've both had, and you can collect all the bobbleheads.
Oh, I love it.
And it means every season we can have a new exclusive bobblehead that we can pick. This is how we fund the House of Nunsense Productions. Yeah.
Oh, I'm Sister Alaska Lot.
Oh, fuck, it's you. Okay. Well, I guess I'm Sister Babeushka.
Are you sure?
I mean, I have had doubts, but I'm pretty sure just now.
And this is complete and utter nonsense.
The show where we pour a cup of tea that is boiling hot.
And we utter whatever nonsense pops into our heads.
Pop. If you don't know by now, and why don't you know by now, this is a very laid-back chat amongst some good acquaintances or friends.
And the new episode is uploaded once a month, every month on the first of the month. So make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're notified of new episodes when they come out.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling.
That was so musical.
It is also a podcast that you can download and listen to from all good streaming sites. So check it out there as well, fuckers.
We're also on the ones that are kind of shitey too. Everyone wants a slice of the nonsense.
But they can't have it. They can't handle the nonsense.
You can't handle the nonsense. I can't handle the nonsense.
Well, it'll just be me and Sister Joan doing a soliloquy.
I've come back to save the peoples.
So gracious of you.
I know. I think that for this episode of Utter Nonsense, we should talk about Sister Babeushka. Because clearly we did not talk about Sister Babeushka enough. What a star. In fact, such a star, Sister Babeushka starred in their very own BBC documentary called The Black Veil.
What? When? How? What's this you say? Oh, little old me?
So we're here to learn all about that documentary, what it was about, why it was made, and also get you the behind-the-scenes gossip that you would not have seen in the documentary.
Oh, today's tea is gonna be extra hot.
And let's be honest, there was some drama.
Looking at you, Joan.
She tried to sabotage the whole thing.
The extra spicy tea can be on Patreon. So if you really want drama,
Spicy tea!
ground the chili flakes into it myself for this. Babeushka secret.
So, what is this documentary?
So, The Black Veil is a short documentary that focuses on two things. One of which being Sister Babeushka's journey towards achieving this beautiful black veil, hence the title, and features some of our other fabulous members of the house, both in Edinburgh and from Glasgow. And the second part of the documentary is talking about my personal experience of identifying as a non-binary person.
So, how did this actually come about? Like, how do you end up involved in something like that?
I believe it was the director of the documentary had actually reached out to the house and asked for a meeting to talk about the sisters in general. And I just happened to be one of the nuns that had popped along on the day because I was like, yeah, I'm free for a little chat.
Be honest, Sister Joan got you that gig, didn't she?
I mean, I really think so. Sister Joan was hoping it was going to be about her, but I mean, true beauty shines through.
Oh, you are feeling shady today.
I mean, after the drama I went through with Sister Joan on this documentary, yeah, there's some shade.
I was honestly expecting you to say, no, I got the part on my own by auditioning.
I got myself that role by auditioning.
What was it that made you decide that you wanted to be part of this documentary then?
Who doesn't want to be famous, right? Personally, for me, agreeing to do it, I think it was more of a chance to share a story and give people more insight into both the order and my personal experiences, which to me felt like a good use of the activism that sisters do.
You remember when it came about? Was it 2019?
Before the pandemic. It was definitely after we'd become novices. So it would have been sometime after Pride 2019 in Edinburgh. So yeah, around about that summer, which, you know, we're both still looking at just under a year to maybe coming up to a year of being involved in the sisters.
Such young nuns.
We looked so youthful back then. I think that's part of the reason why some of the novices were being looked at as the potential focuses of the film, so that there was more of a journey for them than somebody who'd already been a black veiler about in the order for a while.
Next time, Joan, you deserve your day in the spotlights.
You just can't keep out of it. It's ridiculous. Come back.
Was that always the plan then, was to pick a novice and follow them through a journey?
The premise of it stayed intact through COVID, which was learning more about the order and the specific things we did and picking one person to sort of follow on their journey. The overarching theme definitely survived the pandemic. I think the specific journey and specific sort of conversations to be had probably did change a lot during the pandemic.
I think secretly that was your plan all along. You just wanted to be the star. Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about dun, 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 COVID.
This is the exact face I made when I heard about COVID.
Did anything change like immediately?
It's basically the same week that everything was starting to kick off and we were talking about, is there going to be lockdowns? Are people going to have to not go to work? And that was the same week that I was getting the call from the documentary maker going, we've been approved. We can make the documentary. The BBC liked our pitch. And in that same week, everything's getting shut down. And we're like, oh, shit.
Talk about timing.
It was so fun. As things progressed, it became much more about what can we actually do within the regulations? What are we allowed to do? What is off the table now? And, you know, as the original plan was to follow the Novice project that I was planning as well, which was to go to all the prides in Scotland. Kind of difficult when all the prides are cancelled.
If there are no prides, technically you've gone to all of them.
I don't think that's how that works.
Easiest project ever.
No, we couldn't continue with the original plan because obviously part of that plan was filming sisters in action, doing things. There was a lot of having to change and pivot as things progressed. And it wasn't a case of, oh, we've pivoted to this, we're set now. Because obviously, as we all know, the rules in the UK kept changing. So it was, again, pivoting each time there was a lockdown or there could be a gathering, but how many people and how do we, you know, what parts of the documentary are salvageable and what do we now need to frame in a different perspective, which was fun.
What was the last in-person thing that happened then before COVID properly hits?
The last in-person event that was used as part of the documentary, where we went along to Queen Margaret University and did a blessing of the Queer Cabaret Night.
It was glorious.
Oh, yes. I remember almost falling off the stage at one point because I wasn't aware where the end of the stage was and my heel was like, no.
Is that you back in the 6-inch heels?
It's a platform go-go boots. It's not, I don't know how big they are. They might be 6. They might be 7.
It's the one actual proper sister event they got to see before lockdown came in.
And, you know, that would be most of it that they would see for the entirety of the project.
At least they got one glimpse.
Always leave them wanting more.
I remember the film crew coming and filming us while we were all getting ready and stuff. And I was really anxious, actually, because I didn't want people to make the connection between my secular self and my sister self. And I was really nervous about, well, they're still going to be there with cameras. Can I trust them? And actually, they were really good at respecting my wishes. Every now and then they would check in while we were getting ready and say, do you still want to not be on camera? Or, let us know when you're okay to be on camera. I mean, I certainly felt the filmmaker was like taking my well-being into consideration, respecting my wishes. So I'm guessing that you felt the same.
Yeah, like the documentary maker would check in, making sure that I felt comfortable sharing this. And there was checking in that if we were having a very emotionally heavy session, making sure there was space to take breaks or say, I need a timeout whenever, if it got too much. But also in terms of the pandemic, that also meant that we made changes to how filming would be done. So having temperature checks every time we were meeting up and having the film crew outside my house. So they had to go around the back to the garden if they wanted to set up or anything. So they weren't in the house, keeping it safe.
I'm just picturing like this film crew peeking through the windows. Hi.
If you were my neighbour at the time, you'd be like, what the fuck is going on in that back garden? There's this table, they're playing with cameras and booms and everything, and then they're peering in this person's window. Do they know they're there? One of the scenes that happens is me cutting my hair, and you've literally got me just standing in my back garden doing it. And my neighbours must have been watching like, is that what lockdown's done to you, pal?
Sister Joan does not approve of these people peering in your window.
If anyone's peering in windows, it's usually Sister Joan.
Disgraceful.
It was also, even when you were allowed to enter houses, as one or two people, it was still masks on, temperature checks, windows open wide, so there was ventilation. So it really was conscious of how safe people felt.
It was such a weird time, wasn't it? Since we've already touched on it, let's talk about lockdown. So you've already touched a bit on how things had to work around restrictions. What was the deal then? So instead of filming like sisters and community stuff, was it all just one-on-one with you?
Oh, me,
the star that you are.
So yeah, I think there was quite a shift of the whole, we can't film going to prides, and we can't film sisters meeting up and doing a thing all the time. So, what are we going to film? Me. Obviously, there were some instances where we could meet up as sisters and actually have a very limited number show up. But yeah, it was very much we'll focus on me, and as restrictions change, we'll see what's possible and what people are comfortable with.
I'm sure you enjoyed being the center of attention, but I think Sister Joan was slightly jealous. She didn't even feature once.
I think that did lead to a little bit of bitter tea between me and Joan. Not gonna lie.
When we make only nuns, you can be the star.
Well, I mean, she gets her two favourite things, being the star and getting to come. Filth this episode is.
Do we mention the virtual pride drama?
Now, in terms of virtual pride drama, do you mean like
the original virtual pride, which we were all going to be part of, and then discovered like it had bad juju?
Oh, that God,
where we're watching all this stuff happening going, what?
As with anything with the queer community, there's always drama. That's not shade. That's just tea.
I think it was like an entire UK virtual pride, wasn't it? And everyone was quite excited. It seemed like it was going to be a big thing.
It seemed a little bit scammy.
They said they were a victim of cancel culture. So on the surface of it, like it looked like they were the victims. And it was only when you started digging deeper that you started finding out more and more. So I went down this like total rabbit hole and looking on their website, and the charity number they had on it wasn't for the Pride organization, it was for a different organization. And there's questions about the finances and who was in charge. And it just got worse and worse the more you looked. People started like pulling out and making public statements saying how against it they were.
Oh God, I forgot all that drama.
I think Sister Joan was quite good at sniffing out the truth behind the drama, but forgot that this is a superpower that most people do not possess.
I mean, look at that nose on Sister Joan. She can sniff out anything.
And a lot of it seems to be on Twitter. So if you're not a Twitter person, then you just don't see all the drama.
Anyone who wasn't solely focused on checking these things out, they would have just seen the surface level of it looks like cancel culture, but there is actually a reason it's being cancelled and people are pulling out. So yeah, I think Sister Joan maybe jumped the gun a little bit and being mad at people for not being as up on it.
It was really messy. You've already talked a bit about the different things you had to do to make filming work during lockdown. Was it even allowed?
It's different because I'm fucking special. Don't you know who I am? Sometimes even being more cautious than what the rules at the time demanded of us.
Sister Joan, however, we know that she was partying with the cheese and wine.
She was having a blast.
Yes, weekly wine time.
Joan had to give that up and take non-alcoholic wine, didn't you, Joan? You said it wasn't any fun anymore, but you still pouted.
Were there ever any points where you felt like they pushed you to break rules, or were they really strict and telling you like, no, we have to do it this way because of the rules?
Yeah, I would say they were fairly strict. I don't remember any particular point where I went, oh God, I'm not comfortable with that, or that's a bit dodgy. I don't know if we're allowed to do that. So yeah, all the rules were followed, thankfully, and nobody caught COVID while we were doing it, which was nice.
Sister Joan, I think she doubts your story. She told me that someone caught COVID. Is that true, Babeushka?
Oh, you want to know the tea, do you? Well, somebody did catch COVID, but they weren't even in the house. It was Sister Joan.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's because she was having her wine time. That's why anyone who does wine time parties during lockdowns should be made to step back.
Whether it was COVID or whether it was a flu she caught from somebody else that was around her during the early days.
This is real talk, right? I had something in the very, very early days of COVID existing, but before we knew it was in this country. There were no lockdowns, there was no testing. And I have wondered ever since, and I'll never know for certain, but I do wonder, was it COVID? So sorry, Sister Joan. But I don't think there's been a single family that hasn't been affected by COVID in some way.
Luckily, I'm still running for not having it yet.
I did later have 2 members of my family confirmed as having it, and both of them ended up in hospital. They were extremely ill and had long COVID. So I understand the whole long COVID thing very well.
You're preaching to the choir because, I mean, Joan lost her voice because of COVID, and Joan only pops up in some of her episodes, and that's because sometimes she does get fatigued from long COVID that she caught off Alaska.
Sorry, not sorry. It's really impressive, actually, that through the whole like filming thing, you've got people coming and going to your house that you never succumbed to COVID, and none of them ever turned up like with so much as a cough.
I think it was very much because if somebody suddenly felt ill, there was time in between the filming so that you'd actually catch it before you even went and saw other people. This was my only physical interaction other than my partners. And I think most of the other people involved were taking the same approach of, if it's not essential for work, not going to go out. In a sense, we were technically our own little filming bubble.
It sounds like things were done really carefully, actually. How much time was actually spent filming then?
It was like one day a week we'd meet up, and I think sometimes it would depend on what we were doing. So there was instances where it would maybe be like a couple of hours with me in the house talking non-stop. So we could only go as long as I could talk, which isn't as long as you think. I think on average it would maybe be about between 4 to 6 hours of filming. And obviously that includes like a break for the camera people and everything so that they can go out, they can have lunch and they can relax. And if I needed a bathroom break or if I needed time to chill, and some of that time was just spent talking about what's the best position. Like, what do we're not like that. Positioning the shot of me talking. Like, if you've got 4 to 6 hours, and this was maybe done over about a good 8+ weekends. So it was a lot of filming at times. So it was like a nice summer project for 2020, you know, while everyone else is learning how to bake banana bread and doing fucking Wordle, I'm there filming a documentary every weekend.
I mean, people needed something to fill their time with. Why not a documentary?
It was either that or OnlyFans, and you know, it had to be something in front of a camera. When the documentary maker was editing it, I think they'd mentioned there was about 10 hours of footage that was raw before they started editing. And it was like literally having to cut painstakingly to try and make it fit the half hour.
Something that we never manage on this channel.
No, especially if you're listening to the podcast. I think Alaska is much better at editing than I am.
Sister Joan sent me a private message. She says the real reason that she wasn't in the documentary was because she felt uncomfortable, that the questions were invasive, defensive. Nothing to do with her not being the star.
I think that's a bold claim, Joan. Sister Joan is wrong, but Sister Joan is entitled to their beliefs. The documentary film, you know, they were very much a case of, this isn't a topic they're well versed in, on being non-binary. It's maybe not even because of the person's asking them doesn't understand it, but it's something they expect general population might be asking, and they still need to go through that motion so that the general population can follow that narrative thread.
I think that makes sense, actually, because you talked about the documentary being a journey, and it's not just you going on the journey, but you actually have to take the viewer on the journey with you.
I will say there were points during the documentary where I maybe did feel uncomfortable, but that wasn't because of the questions or how they were phrased. It was more the topic of conversation, and sometimes because it was quite personal to me. I think that's where the discomfort would have come from, at least from my experience.
We're still at the point where the general public don't have a particularly good understanding of lots of queer issues, and particularly things like being non-binary, I don't think is widely understood.
I think part of being a sister and being an activist for the queer community is knowing when somebody is asking something out of malice and when somebody is asking something to try and understand and they're maybe not using the right language.
For me as a sister, it's about trying to be patient and consider where they're coming from, how much earlier in the journey they are, and then try and give them a little bit of what they need to get them even just a little bit further along in that journey. Anything I can do to help them understand is a win in my book.
I mean, that's it. As activists, it's all about that education as well as challenging discrimination and oppression.
I kind of feel like as sisters, that's part of the job, right?
If we had job descriptions, it would be the fucking first point.
One thing that I remember being worried about was the potential for being misrepresented, because you're essentially trusting these people to come and film you and stuff, and you're just hoping that they then portray it in a positive light. Is that something that you ever worried about?
I think I would be a fool if I wasn't worried about that at some point. If anything, I think I was more worried about being misrepresenting being non-binary and fellow non-binary people calling me out. I think that was the bigger worry at the end of it all.
What we ended up with was like the most beautiful, touching documentary. It was really like it got you in the feels.
At the end of the filming, and once everything had been cut together, there was a chance for me to actually see it before like the final product was given over to be released.
They did good. Obviously, this documentary was part of a journey, and one really important part of that journey was the question which featured in the documentary. Can you tell us what is the question?
Once we feel we've met the requirements and we feel we have the skills and basically we're already doing the thing, of being a black veil, just without the veil. It's then to go to our fellow members of the order and to ask whether or not it is time to progress. We were actually both asking our question at the same time, which made it feel a lot less daunting.
It was very nice not having to face that fear alone, because it was a bit scary.
It is a big step in the sister journey.
I was totally expecting Sister Joan to say no.
Look at that face. She'd still say no to this day.
That was my biggest fear, was Sister Joan interrupting the entire proceedings and going, no!
I think that was also my fear.
I'm still waiting for the day that Sister Joan decides to kick us out the house for being bad sisters.
For asking questions.
I ask a lot of questions, so I can't help it. Now, the question, apart from being a pivotal moment in the journey that the documentary was following, was quite interesting because it was filmed in person with not just you.
I think it was the first time we'd seen each other in months.
I remember by that point, they'd eased restrictions kind of later on in the summer.
So you could meet people and be slightly social so you didn't go completely demented.
Still socially distanced, though.
Now, you see, Sister Joan over here, like squeaking in the background, saying that the rules were maybe not as followed as they should have been. Yeah, you come on camera, you want to say it, you say it.
Now, Sister Joan, I specifically remember asking people what the rules were. You were involved in that conversation.
I think she's a little bit upset at being called out like that.
Honestly, I was so nervous about COVID. So nervous. And I've really struggled with my mental health as a result. But I deliberately checked what the restrictions were and how many people that meant in reality, like number of sisters versus film crew. And what that meant was that we were limited on how many sisters we could have. So we chose the most key 3 people to be filmed, which of course is Sister Babeushka, Brother Bimbo, who we've seen on previous episodes. And me, I got to be in it. I don't think we actually saw me, but I was there.
So does that mean then that what Sister Joan said about like camera crew and lighting crew crawling over each other and over sisters wasn't happening then?
We were outside at broad daylight. What lighting? Sister Joan. I was quite impressed with what they were putting in place to keep us safe, and it made me feel much better. So I remember, like, you know, the risk assessments and the temperature checks and filling out forms and masks. Apart from when we were eating, we did it all outdoors. We were at a gigantic table to make sure we were adequately spaced apart. We were in a private location, so there was no like people going to be attracted by it all. We each had our own mic as well, so rather than people coming really close and trying to make sure they heard what we said, we all had our own individual mic, which was like all remote and stuff, so they could stand back and just let us do our thing. I think that the closest they ever got was at one point someone asked me if I could just lift a cable over myself, and I lifted the cable rather than them. So it made me feel much more comfortable at a time that I was particularly struggling. And Sister Joan, you weren't even there. How would you know?
Well, there you go, Joan. Stop spreading slander.
That'll be the next big court case.
I think there was an unfortunate bit during filming where my mask, the strap had like come off, and I was then struggling to hold it here while looking casual, because obviously like I can't have it off, but I can't get under to put it back. So I'm just like, but yeah, overall, fantastic from the crew.
So we did have limits on how many people could be there because of restrictions. So it meant that everyone else had to go for different options. We did have other people who attended, but it was via Zoom. So each of us had our own device in front of us on a Zoom meeting. So we were able to stay socially distanced on our Zoom meeting, and everyone else could then join in the conversation as well.
Hybrid calls before they were cool.
We're paving the way.
The rest of the world just follows in our sequence.
The other key thing that happened after the question was the actual black veiling itself. The main highlights of the documentary.
Well, there wasn't going to be a wedding, so it had to lead up to something.
And again, COVID was still a thing. presumably there must have been lots of planning and like how do you even make that work, trying to put veils on people's heads when you're socially distanced and like you're unlimited on numbers and all that kind of stuff?
With great difficulty and much stress. How to plan a thing like that? I think there was 3 or 4 maybe different conversations happening at the same time, because I think there were the conversations between like me and you as Black Veilies, you know, so like checking in with each other, seeing how we're feeling about things, like what are we feeling for black veiling, because it was going to be both of us on the same day.
Yes, and we're supposed to be the ones responsible for organising the actual events of our black veiling. So it's kind of on us to figure out this stuff.
And then I think a few of the other members of our house, which I think Sister Joan was involved in, there was conversations round about the safety and how the sisters as a house would participate. And then there was the third wheel of conversation, which was very much about with the documentary makers. So yeah, like 3 different conversations where you're having to try and check in on all of them.
I think there was probably a lot of conversations that we weren't involved in, which is not very helpful when we're the people actually doing the organising. What we did have on our side, though, was that both of us at that time were involved in another organisation, which is specifically around organising events. And we were involved at quite a high level. So we had been really heavily involved in looking at what is allowed and what's not allowed, how you work around these restrictions, how you do risk assessments.
It's almost as if some of us had even had to chat to the police about what is the legal thing that you're going to tell us if we do this thing in this public place.
I even remember doing like recon missions to our first choice of location to look at which spots we could potentially make use of, which would be, you know, clear of people and have the space to do the things. So it was all like planned out and stuff. And we had backup options for different locations, but
the best laid planning of mice and men often goes awry.
I mean, Sister Joan clearly has been a problem the entire time. I probably shouldn't say that.
For all their life, Sister Joan has been an issue that many people have had to overcome.
Sister Joan has clearly been the star of today's episode. All the stories about Sister Joan. We have one more because she tried to sabotage the black veiling.
Sister Joan!
Sister Joan was secretly trying to cancel the entire event.
Joan. Not cool, Joan.
Sister Joan didn't actually know any of the planning that was taking place and didn't ask, but just decided it shouldn't happen.
Almost as if Sister Joan was only involved in one of those 3 wheels of conversation.
Not even sure she was involved in one of those wheels. I think she might have been involved in one of the spokes on the wheel. Like, was missing a lot of information. This is real genuine tea.
Let me get the teapot.
Yes, genuinely, there was an attempt to cancel the entire thing under our noses without telling us. And I remember being so stressed. It was less than 24 hours before it was due to happen when we found out, and I cried so much.
Talk about cancel culture. Not even happened and they're trying to cancel it.
My mental health was particularly poor at that point. And having people actively working against you is not pleasant.
Finding that out in the 24 hours beforehand and having to not only deal with the emotions, but also then present a calm face to the documentary people and keep them in the loop. You know, it was that horrible thing of, this is all going to shit, but I cannot tell these people it's going to shit, or I cannot paint Joan in a bad light because I still treasure Joan. I think, and I think you would probably agree, that a black veiling is stressful because it's a big thing, but it does not need to be as stressful as it was for us. And that was a baptism of fire.
No lie, I cried for 2 days straight, and I had to try and stop myself long enough to get my makeup on my face and do the ceremony before I was allowed to cry again. Because if I cry like this, it's just... it's going to go everywhere.
You'll look like me.
This is the real tea. It was one of the worst moments in the past 2 years. was my black veiling.
It almost felt like my quitting moment because it felt so unsupportive.
It's really disappointing when someone doesn't know or understand what's going on and they make a lot of guesses and they're wrong, and then they act on those to try and sabotage what you're doing. That's Sister Joan.
Thankfully, we have moved past that stabbing in the back with Sister Joan, but as you see, that is why I maybe treat Sister Joan a little bit harshly when she butts into the episodes.
Despite all of that, we did get our black veils. Oh, in fact, there's other drama to talk about.
Well, Alaska. That was the 24 hours leading up to the event. The event itself also had a lead up of drama in those final 3 or 4 hours beforehand.
I mean, despite the fact that we were already completely stressed, like this is just the worst 24, 48 hours ever, we've agreed that it's going ahead. So there was a small number of people, plus the film crew, who were meeting outdoors. As per the rules, there was Sister Babeushka and their mother, Brother Bimbo. But Sister Babeushka brought a member of their household to actually do the close physical stuff. One of my favorite pictures actually is the photo of you on the hill and the camera crew standing like miles away with the longest boom arm I have ever seen with the microphone on the end. And it just totally encapsulates filming during COVID. So we're getting ready in our respective homes. Someone had to collect our black veils and bring them to us.
We've been notified the veils have been picked up, and it's like, oh God, it's happening.
And we were waiting for them. And we were waiting. And we were still waiting.
I've got these people watching me, and I'm slyly texting you like, have you got your veil yet? It's been a while, hasn't it? And slowly going, do you think?
Have our veils been kidnapped?
And trying to keep it together while people are watching and talking to you. And inside you're just like, fuck.
Is this like the last attempt to cancel the whole thing?
In my head, I was like, Alaska will be fine because Alaska's at home. Alaska has like another hour of time and they can scramble about the house, find something black. Nobody will know. And I'm like, I've got a film crew. Can I find something black that might fit black veil while the film crew is here or before they leave and before I have to leave? And this is going to be on camera, so it needs to look good. Not fun.
To this day, I still don't know where that time went. Were they just doing other tasks? Did they collect them and then sit and debate with themselves for a while about what they were going to do? Did they go home and sit and debate what they were going to do before coming back into the city? How close was it to our veils not turning up?
I think it was a pretty close call.
I don't think we'll ever know now.
So weird.
Sister Joan knows.
She ain't telling.
Suffice to say, we do have our veils at this point. So clearly everything turned out okay. The ceremony happened and we managed to get our black veils. We probably didn't have as many people come along to the ceremony virtually as we would have liked. Less than 24 hours notice is not great for trying to gather people for a Zoom call. There were a few people who actually happened to be in the city and weren't going to be able to get home in time. Mm-hmm. And their plan was to basically just park their car in the area and sit and watch it on their phones. I think they knew we were stressed and they just wanted to show their support. Sister Joan disapproved of that for some reason and thought that it was a last minute surprise when it wasn't. It's just they weren't involved in the planning, so they didn't know.
I mean, I think a lot of Sister Joan's miscommunications and misunderstandings could be solved if they just worked out how to talk to people and ask questions.
To be fair, Sister Joan was on a break.
We were on a break!
It's your job to catch up, fucker.
Yeah.
It felt like a very lonely experience, that black veiling. It felt lonely not having you there, even though I had my mother. It wasn't the necessary people that I would have said, yes, these are the two key people to have, as well as my partner. I also need my comrade and my best friend here, who is also doing the thing, so we can say we've done the thing together, damn it.
See, it just didn't have a Done the Thing song at the end. Disgraceful.
Is it even a black veiling if it doesn't say done the thing?
What was your first manifest after getting your black veil?
The first sort of manifest after black veiling was one that we did together. which was a lovely little blessing for a sober queer space in Edinburgh.
It was really brave of them actually to open a cafe during lockdowns, during COVID. Like, you really have to admire them for just going for it. It's been really interesting seeing them develop and progress since then. And it looks like they've become a real asset to the community. There are so many, like, they're not just a cafe, they do lots of events there. They do things to help benefit the community. And it's just such a lovely resource. So I'm really glad that we went and blessed them when they first opened. I like to think we gave them a little bit of sister luck.
I'd like to think so too, because I noticed they still proudly display it in the cafe, that little blessing certificate we gave.
There was an attempt to sabotage that too.
Oh, Joan, what will we do with you? Burn you at the stake, maybe.
I seem to remember we did it like the day before new restrictions came in, so we just got it in under the wire as well. But we were really careful about it. It wasn't like loads of sisters there. It wasn't like loads of customers or anything. It was just a very quiet affair, but I think was meaningful to them.
We had both the owners there, and I think they maybe had like one patron who was also there at the time. And, you know, we were masked, we kept distant from them. We really thought about it, and we made sure we were in, did the blessing, and we were out, so we weren't putting people at too much risk. Yeah, both the owners are so lovely. And the fact that one of the owners is even a sort of renowned drag queen in the scene in Edinburgh is just fantastic as well.
I love them so much.
Fantastic local business. They have not sponsored this episode, but we thought we'd give them a shout out anyway. So shout out to you, Queer Cafe.
And I suppose that was like the culmination of the entire journey, essentially. At that point, we were Black Veils doing the thing. What was the reception of the film once it was released then?
It was quite a warm outpouring of love and acceptance. Just a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling, especially after all the behind-the-scenes drama that had gone on.
Real talk. Give us the tea. Was there any drama after it was released?
There was maybe 2 incidents, but funnily enough, it was not from the area that I was expecting.
You would kind of prepare yourself for the more obvious things of, like, you know, homophobic attacks, TERFs, like, or people who disagree with how non-binary issues are represented because their experience is different.
And nothing like that happened.
What did happen then?
There was actually some sort of postings on social media that were complaining from the queer community.
Just completely left field.
It's always the things you don't prepare for that apparently smack you in the face. They were tearing into the documentary talking about how was it COVID safe, because obviously it was filmed during lockdown. Well, lockdowns and not lockdowns in the UK, because we went through several. It was trying to nitpick.
People can be really quick to judge, can't they?
The other fun thing...
Oh, there's more drama! We need the tea!
Obviously, it's been out for a while, and it's only been in 2022 when one of my high school bullies has even found the documentary. And to have somebody who is also in the queer community, again, choosing to attack the documentary, this time not based on the technical side, but because they don't like me.
I can't get over how sad you have to be to still be bullying someone 12 years after school.
Yeah, that was fun, having a little bit of a hate campaign against me because I stood up to them being a bully to me. And so 12 plus years later, they've got to get that knife in somehow.
It's going to sound really harsh. Some people just need to get a life.
The person actually works in the same sort of industry of making film content and such. So I think they were jealous, which is another thing, because nobody engages with their profile. They get maybe 1 or 2 likes and they've got 1,000 followers.
It's all to do with jealousy. The high school bully is jealous. Sister Joan is jealous. I'm jealous. Everybody's jealous. When you put yourself out there in such a public way, sadly, it's probably inevitable that there's going to be some people who just don't like it.
It came from high school bullies and other people in the queer community who didn't want to understand what had happened. They just wanted to tear something down.
Life is better when you build each other up. And I just don't understand why someone would try to tear someone else down. I like
Yeah.
trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, but yeah, I don't get it. We've heard so much about the Black Veil documentary, but where can we go and watch it?
It is still available on iPlayer for the next month until the end of July 2022.
Make sure you go and watch it while you still can.
It's also actually sort of shown at a few film festivals around the world.
Oh, that's exciting.
Squiff, which was the Scottish Queer International Film Festival. And so I believe me, you, and a few other people from Glasgow and Edinburgh had actually went along to go see it in person on the big screen.
In full habit as well.
It also then went over to Canada for the Imagine Plus Nation Festival. And it actually won a wee award there, Best Short Documentary. It is currently showing in San Francisco as part of the documentary festival. And it's also going to be playing in Melbourne as part of the documentary festival there.
Obviously, the filmmaker and the film crew did a fantastic job. And thank you to Babeushka for being willing to share their story.
I actually also want to put a special thanks to you, Alaska, because I think without you throughout that process, I don't know if I would have stuck around with all the drama.
Likewise, I genuinely don't think I could have made it here without you. We should tell the people what next episode is.
So next time, we're actually going to go back to one of our favourite topics that we've done before. That's right, people. It's Pointlessly Gendered Products 2, the sequel!
So yes, until then, please don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. And you can check us out on our other social medias. All of the links are in the description down below.
Just a reminder, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, tell your lovers, tell your enemies, tell everyone.
I think we've done the thing.
We've done the thing.
We've done the thing. We've done the thing. We've done the thing.
We've done the thing. We've done the thing. We've done the thing.
And we've done in Joan.